Welcome to the Vegan Transformation. I'm your host, Angela Crawford. I'm a psychologist, transformational coach, and vegan educator. I'm passionate about sharing the power of a plant-powered vegan lifestyle for transforming our lives in mind, body, and spirit, and to create a healthier, kinder, and more compassionate world. I hope to inspire and empower you wherever you are on your veg journey to give tips and tools to thrive emotionally and feel your best while you're living or moving toward a vegan lifestyle. And today I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest, Tamara Marie of Plant Empowered Fitness. And we'll introduce her more in a bit and share more about her work. But I just first want to say welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Good. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good. Well, I'm excited to share about your work because I met you through a group we were in together, and have seen and been inspired by your work. And I didn't participate in a program with you, which I'll be able to share a little bit about when we get into that later. But if you don't mind, I'd love to first ask you to share about your vegan journey, how you became vegan, and sort of what's led you to where you are now.
Yeah, it's actually it's probably a long journey, but I'll try to give the short version. For me, I had actually stopped eating meat when I was about officially when I was like 16, around there. And at the time I was doing a fast, and it was meant to be just a 30-day fast with like no land animals. That's how it was phrased. And I was like, okay, well, I can handle that. And at that time, I had cut out most meat. I think I was only really eating fish. And because I was about to do a fast, I was like, well, let me have, something for the last time. So I think I had some chicken strips or something not very good. It wasn't like I had like, like even like a high quality food. It was like very not great, my last meal that was non-vegan. But yeah, from there, it was easy because it was a gradual process. Because at first I stopped eating pork, and then red meat, and then poultry, and then, like I said, at the time I was only eating fish here and there, and so I had been vegetarian for a long time. And when I first became vegetarian, at the time there was not the abundance of options that there are now in terms of different products and things inaccessible. So I remember I had like this moosewood cookbook. It was like the only thing I could find that had like vegetarian recipes. So I was still eating eggs and cheese and stuff. And so it took a little bit of time, but eventually I did cut out dairy. Cheese was probably the last thing to go. It was one of those things where, I learned later about, the addictive properties of cheese and all that. Um, and also the health, issues that come along with it. But yeah, that was probably my biggest thing. And I've heard a lot of people share similar stories that, I can handle chicken, but meat, oh, I'm not, but cheese, like, oh, that's a whole other ballgame. So, really kind of fast forward to around the pandemic time. At the time, like I said, I was mostly vegan, but I was still like here and there having like Pizza Friday every now and then. And it was actually during a guided meditation where it was actually an hour long, pretty extensive meditation. And it wasn't related to food or anything, but somewhere along the line during that time, in that sort of, it was like a visualization almost kind of journey I was going through. And it just sort of came to me that, like, well, I don't have to harm any other living beings in order to feed myself. And it just stuck with me of like setting an intention instead of kind of like, oh, well, I'll have pizza if it's around, just not being very intentional. That it was very clear to me at that time that I could make a decision. And since that moment, it was like, all right, well, that's it. Like, how do I do this properly? And I started looking into more of, just learning more about nutrition overall, just in terms of being plant-based and how to do it ideally. Because, in the past I've been vegetarian, but I was definitely guilty of eating French fries and salads on many occasions because that's all the restaurants had. They didn't have, Beyond Burgers or whatever. There was no vegan options on the menu. So I just, I immersed myself in learning a lot more about how to do things properly plant-based. And so yeah, so that was my defining moment. And I think it was a pretty long journey, honestly. And I think it's been helped by the fact that there are more options now. It is so much easier to be vegan now. And so for me, it's just been a mix of things that have led me to. I feel like that moment of like real decision and intention of like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. I can't participate in whatever this is that is actually causing harm, because it's not necessary, So
Yeah. And how did becoming fully vegan affect your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, professionally?
well, it's interesting. I guess so spiritually, I'll start with that because actually I feel like all of my firm choices in terms of nutrition have actually they've been for health reasons, but they've come through spiritual practice. So the first 30-day fast I did, at the time I was practicing Muslim, so I was fasting for Ramadan. And the meditation I did more recently, where I really made this more firm decision, I was a Buddhist meditation. So I feel like my spiritual realizations are related to sort of how I'm nourishing my body, which is really interesting when I think about it, reflect on it. Because I learned a lot, but for me to finally, make that choice, it there was always like a spiritual undercurrent to that decision. Physically, I would say, oh gosh. So because I have been like the junk food vegetarian and also, the poor college student vegetarian who only was fed, you know, what was it, battered and fried cauliflower bites in the cafeteria, and didn't have a job. Like I had been very malnourished in the past. And it wasn't because I was a vegetarian, it was because I was poor. It was like these were the options available to me. And so I just was not eating very well. Even with the information, even with being vegetarian, it was like it was so easy to just be unhealthy, especially in the environments I was in. And so I would say physically, it's really helps because not having that dairy, I mean, gosh, that stuff, the inflammation and the like my skin got a lot better and just I used to have allergies really bad, like seasonal allergies, like to the point where I'd be sneezing constantly and just like, it was bad. And it kind of runs in my family, but um it wasn't like the reason I, became vegan, but I did notice like, summer after summer, I go, oh, I'm actually okay. Even now it's like right now it's summertime, it's really hot and humid. And normally I'd be suffering and like congested. And I haven't had that in years. And then physically just feeling lighter and knowing that I'm nourishing my body. And I also started really being more into fitness than I've ever been in my life as a vegan. So, and professionally, it just kind of opened up doors for me in terms of thinking of ways that I can help others through this lifestyle because I realize that for everyone, it's not easy. Some people it's really, really hard because it's so wrapped up in our culture and our history, our habits, our perception of who we are, our identity. And so I just thought if I could be a little catalyst in helping people kind of move through that journey because I've been over 20 years kind of dealing with this. Um, that why not, right? It almost felt obligated to kind of make more professional intention with helping other people on this journey because I think it's important because you need community, especially when it's hard to do it all on your own, right? It's like being that one rogue person or the maverick who's, I'm going to be different. That is not comfortable for everybody. I realize that. So it really just helps to have a guide on that journey. And so I'm just happy to do that now and tell people in that way.
That's really inspiring. Remind me, how long have you been vegan?
Actually, I'm so terrible with these things. People ask me these questions, and I finally wrote it down on the calendar. So I think it's been technically 4 years in May, this past May. I came up on 4 years because I wrote down because I had to look back at when that retreat was, the day of the meditation. I said, I know it was that retreat. And so I believe it was like May 19th, somewhere around there, but I have on my calendar. But yeah, so I think it's been about 4 years fully that I can say I've been 100% vegan. Although, like I said, before that, I was, mostly there.
Moving in that direction. And it's so
Yes.
inspiring, what you've done physically, in that time. When did you move towards becoming a bodybuilder and, fitness coach? How did all that happen? Tell me about that.
Oh, completely accidentally. So I had started really going to the gym for the first time in my life when I was about 39, I think. And I had been to the gym, like I had been to Zumba classes. I had done the I'm going to go on the elliptical for 30 minutes, like, at the fitness center at my job. Like I thought I was working out and I was moving my body, right? Um, but other than that, I hadn't really done anything athletic. The last time I had done any athletic pursuit was in high school. My sophomore year, I ran track and I was not even a runner. I was a sprinter. I am not, I still, even to this day, I'm like, I can't run long distances. That's not my jam. Um, but literally since I was like 15, I hadn't really done anything. I didn't do sports in college. And as an adult, I just had sedentary desk jobs most of my career. So all of my career. So I had started working out and I just happened to put on muscle like pretty easily. Um, and I had people commenting like, "Oh, are you a trainer or are you this?" And I was like, "No, I don't even. I just learned how to do a squat like 5 minutes ago. I don't even." So, but it was. I had a couple friends kind of mention to me, "Oh, like you could have been a bodybuilder," and I didn't take it seriously at first. But I ended up having a little bit of a, I guess, I don't say midlife crisis, but I had a moment when I was turning 40. My son was actually out of town at the time for the first time out of state with his dad. And I was like, I need to distract myself. Like I was just like not okay. I was just trying to deal with the anxiety of that, right? So I was like kind of walking around outside and I watched this video of someone that said, like, look, if you're thinking about bodybuilding, you should go to a show. So I went to a show just to check it out and see. And the minute I walked in the door, people were like, "Oh, are you competing?" And I was like, "Am I what?" I didn't understand any of the lingo. I didn't know what they were talking about. I just wanted to see what bodybuilding show even looked like. And I met someone there who actually she had won her category. So in bodybuilding, you have different categories you can compete in, and they have it by different classes, but they also have age groups. So I was very interested in the 40 and over class because I said, "Oh, that's what I want to do. I want to compete with the 40 and over crew. Like that's my thing." And so I happened to just meet her coming out because she had won, and I took a picture with her and I posted on Instagram, and then people started going, "Oh wow, are you a bodybuilder?" I was like, "No, I just went to the show." So I'm like denying it, denying it, denying it. And I finally ended up just meeting with a coach to go, "All right, can you tell me, is this really a thing I could do where people just like, blowing smoke or what? I don't know. I don't know anything about it." And she's like, "Well, you could do it. It's going to be hard." And I was like, "Well, challenge accepted." And I started training. And 10 months later, I did my first show, which is not typical. Usually, most women, especially, most people, but most women especially, will take, several years of training before they even think about competing because you have to build enough muscle to be competitive. But I just happened to do pretty well my first couple shows. I got first and second place in all my categories. And so I said, well, I guess I'm good at this. I might as well keep going. And so I did, and I another season after that. So I first competed when I was 40, and I did win my 40 and over category. So I succeeded in that. Took a little time off, and then I competed again just this past year, and I actually got my pro card in one of the natural bodybuilding leagues. So I'm officially a pro.
What
So
does that mean
my next
exactly?
competition.
Can you explain?
Well, so there's amateur and professional, and really the pro status one is a lot more competitive, but the main thing is you can compete for money at that point, right? So when you're an amateur, you just kind of get like a medal or a trophy and a like congratulations, and you know you may or may not qualify for professional. When you compete as an amateur, you have to win your class, and every organization has different rules. But bottom line is you have to win something, and you will get awarded your professional card, which is just a level of membership that means you can now compete at the professional level and you can compete for money. So, and it goes from as little as a couple $100s all the way up to like, if you're talking the Olympia and the Arnold, where like the professionals are that are enhanced bodybuilders, which means they can use uh, performance enhancing drugs and things that you don't use in natural federations. They make, thousands of dollars. I went to the Arnold Expo this past March, and I think the male, of course, the men always make more than the women, but the male bodybuilder, I think the winner of his category, he got like $500,000 or something ridiculous, or 100. No, I think it was like $100,000. But at the Olympia, they were like, "Oh, we're going to increase it from 400,000 to 500,000 for the top prize." So it gets that crazy, but I am definitely not not at that level. But yeah, so that's the difference between amateur and professional. You get to compete for money.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, when I've seen your pictures on Instagram from your competitions, it's just it's just awesome. And I wonder what it feels like for you to see your own pictures when, when you're competing and you're, you know, really so toned and so, wow, muscled. What is it like for you to see it now after everything?
It's so funny. It's a little surreal. I was actually looking at one of the videos I had from back in October earlier today, because sometimes I'll use some of the things for like workout videos and things like that. So when I was what actually the show where I won my pro card, I was in Arizona and I had a videographer with me. So I got a lot of back scenes footage and everything like that. So it was actually really cool. But when I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so thin. Like I being lean for stage is not like your normal walking around, looking athletic body. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I just remember looking at it going, oh my gosh, like I was just really like I was just really frail. Like and people don't also realize like bodybuilders, any bodybuilder, not just sort of women or anything, even just at my level, but any bodybuilder when they're on stage are actually at their weakest,
Mm.
which is really strange to think about because you think, oh, look at all these muscles, but to get that lean, you have to really cut down so much fat that the fat surprisingly us helps you out in the gym, right? It helps you lift heavier weight. So when you don't have a lot of body fat, you're at your weakest point. So when I look at it, it's so funny because I'm like, I look amazing, but I just remember feeling so frail. It's such an interesting thing. It's really surreal. And also because the competition moment is so quick, it's like you prepare for months and years and then you get on stage and you're there for like a couple of minutes and you're off stage. It's just like a lot of work and effort and preparation for like a very, very short time. So it feels like a whirlwind, but it's so much fun. It's like I love competing and I love the sort of showmanship of it all and posing and getting to really show off all the hard work because it's a lot of work. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And to show that like at any stage in life, that's possible, that you
yeah.
weren't, you weren't in your 20s when you decided to go this path, and that you did it plant-based. And, I think that's really awesome. And tell a little bit about your work. You also help women, through coaching and programs and stuff. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's actually interesting too because you were asking too about sort of the spiritual connection here, and it's really the thread all the way through for me. So, my first bodybuilding coach had a retreat. I think I forget exactly when it was, but it was a little bit before I was going to compete for the first time. And at the time, I hadn't really picked a show date. There was a show I wanted to do, and she was trying to tell me I need more time to grow more. That's what every bodybuilding coach will tell you, by the way. It's like you could grow more. Every bodybuilder is told that they can be leaner and that they can have more muscle. So I know that now, but at the time, I was just like, I've never done this before. Should I wait? And I just had this thing of like, I'm just gonna do the show. I'm gonna pick a show. I'm gonna pick a date, and this is the show I'm gonna do. And I actually have it in a journal I wrote at that retreat that I was going to compete in a bodybuilding show. And she was asking us, well, what is our why? Like, what's the reason that we're competing? Because if you don't have a strong reason, it's really hard to follow through because getting to stage is a lot of work. And I wrote in my journal that, my purpose for competing was to inspire other women to be plant-based and also learn that they can be fit at any age.
Mm.
And so it just all kind of worked out that way because I didn't know how I was going to do. But when I did well, and then people saw my pictures and I had some friends come to the show, they were like, oh, what did you do? What did you eat? How did you train? And then all of a sudden, people who had never thought about eating plant-based before were coming to me asking me for recipes and workouts. And I said, well, I guess that intention came forward for me, and that's really the reason that I started competing was just to be a living example and not just talking at people. I think too often vegans like are preaching at people about like animal rights, and everyone is not going to come from that angle. Of course, there are people who love animals, but even people who love animals have a disconnect because they love their dogs, but they still eat chicken wing, and they don't see the direct connection because people have compartmentalized that. But when you can show something desirable, it is like, oh, I want to look like that. I want to do that. Like, I don't care what, just tell me how to do that. It completely changes the conversation. And so, and yeah, people learn. I find that even if, people become vegan for various different reasons, eventually we all learn more about animal rights. We all learn more about the environmental impact. Like however we come into it, if we come into it for health or for other reasons. So I think it's all a net positive. And so whatever I can do to kind of make this lifestyle look attractive and not look restrictive or weird or fringe or, weak and docile or whatever perceptions people have about it, then, I'm all for it. So,
Yeah, it's showing the the positives of eating in ways that actually fuel your body and just
yes.
also happen to be much kinder and more sustainable as well. And realizing, as you said earlier, that you realized you could eat in a way that didn't cause harm to other living beings, and that brought spiritual peace to you, which touches in also, a vegan lifestyle can lead to emotional benefits that, we don't always realize. And so it sounds like tied into that spirituality and the physical gains, you've also felt better emotionally. Um, there are ways it's helped you in that realm. Can you say anything more about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think that there's a perception that being vegan, it's like you're the odd person out all the time, right? Like, especially if you don't have a lot of friends who are vegan or if your family, most of us weren't raised vegan or, don't have families where everyone's vegan. So there's like tofurkey at Thanksgiving, right? Like, so oftentimes it's like you do find yourself being like on the other side or, being othered in some way, which can be isolating to people. But at the same time, the other thing I found is like such a great community of people who are really, I would say, the most heart-centered, compassionate people I've ever met in the vegan community. Now some people can be a little bit, intolerable about, judgmental or whatever like that. But by and large, it's just like the best people I've met in my life, whether they're vegan athletes or just activists or just people who just want want to do better for themselves. Do better for the environment, do better for animals, like all of the reasons. And when you're on that journey of self-improvement, there's this thing about transformation, like kind of like what your show is about, right? It's like that process of transformation is really powerful. And it's something that can pull you through even your toughest moments and toughest days where you realize I'm actually living in alignment with my values and my goals. And even if I have a rough day, like look at all the positives of what I'm doing, how I'm spending my time, how I'm able to help others. Because again, just being vegan, it's like you're just an example in the community of whoever is in your circle of a better way to do things. And it's really interesting. People that when I really started to notice it as people who, they had doctors, they had people they trusted, they had their close friends, but when they were really in trouble, they would come to me. And I always thought that was strange. I'd be like, but we're not that close. Like I'd be trying to excuse out of it. I'm like, why are you asking me? I'm not a doctor. I'm not, and it's because they can see something in you when you've made this intention to follow this lifestyle that they're like, okay, I know what you're doing is healthy. I might not announce it to everyone and I might not be wearing this, PETA t-shirt or whatever like that. But when really people are really suffering, I found that on the low, they'll kind of come to me like, Tamara, okay, what do I need to eat? What should I do? And it's usually like a health crisis or something that I find that people come to me. So that has been really, fulfilling in a way because at first I was really overwhelmed by it and I was a little like, okay, I can't help you. I don't know why you're coming to me. Actually, I have one friend in particular who came to me when she was diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, whoa, like you need to go talk to a doctor. Like I'm not the one, and I felt bad because I tried to help her, but I said, look, I really am not qualified to do this. And so I did, try the best I could. And she did end up finding a program that was specifically focused on helping people heal diseases through plant-based diet. And I was really glad that she was able to go. She did extend her life, I think through following that diet and that program. And so unfortunately she passed away a few years ago. But when I think that just the changes that she made was responsible for extending her life. She just had a relapse and everything kind of came back really quickly. But I just remember that feeling like I really can't help you. And I told her, like, talk to someone else. And she said, but I want you to help me. She's like, I know you, I want you to help me. And I was like, oh gosh. And I'm really glad in a way because that was another sort of part of my deciding to finally kind of get off the sidelines and like, look, I know enough to help people, but I do want to make sure I'm doing this properly. So I did get certified, got my personal trainer certification, got nutrition, plant-based nutrition certificate because I just thought, okay, there's got to be something I can do. Like, I'm not going to go to medical school, right? But I do know a lot. I mean, and just the practical things people don't think of like, what do you do when you're going to Christmas dinner with your family and there's ham on the table and you've got that one family member who's like, why aren't you eating? And you feel pressure, or you're going out with friends and they're drinking a lot or they're eating Taco Tuesday, whatever it is, right? Like, how do you navigate those things? Because oftentimes the reason why doctors give people medicine is because they don't believe people will make lifestyle changes,
Mm.
and it's too risky, right? It's too risky if someone says, I'm not going to take my blood pressure medication, or I'm not going to take my cholesterol medication, and then they go and eat a ham, right? Like, it's that at that point it's a thing of, okay, well, we have to do what's best for the patient. So I definitely understand why. But at the same time, when you have the support to make those decisions and navigate those situations, you can maintain your health. You can maintain your conviction to your lifestyle when you have a supportive group of people that are helping you through it. So I just think it's important for all facets. I mean, you can't just rely on one thing. I feel like even I always tell my clients that you have to have like a team, a wellness team. It's not just the doctor, it's not just a healthcare professional, it's not just your naturopath. Because, like, let's be honest, there's great things about Western medicine, but there's also great things about some of the traditional
Mhm.
modalities, but they really kind of are great to access if you have access to both. Why would you say no to getting blood work done, or why would you say no to trying acupuncture, right? Like, if all of it can help your overall wellness. So I just tend to believe in a more holistic approach. And I know that I can play a part in that, even if I'm not, an MD with a white coat. That even though it's kind of funny because my Instagram is Tamara Marie MD and people think I'm a doctor. I'm like, no, I'm just from Maryland. But yeah, I can still play a part, and it's just been rewarding to see that I have been able to help people in those small ways that I have so far. And I'm always just kind of thinking of, how do I make it easier for people? How do I make it more accessible? How do I make it less weird? you know, and also healthier, so people don't fall into these traps that, oh, just because this product came out and it says it's vegan, that is somehow a health food, because it's not always the case. So.
I love how you've tried to expand your knowledge to help in the ways you can. And just knowing, even like you said, even though you and I, we're not MDs, you and I, we can still share resources. We can still
Right.
share the expertise that we have, accumulated. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask you about, which is the social challenges of being vegan in a world that we're still in the minority.
Yep.
And, often our families are not, for many of us. How have you navigated any challenges socially as a vegan, and how do you, encourage others that you work with to handle some of those social challenges?
Well, it's actually funny for me because, so I think my personality, I'm one of those people that just doesn't spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think about what I'm doing. So I realize, though, I've come to realize that everyone isn't like that. And so for me, something that's trivial of like, well, what if, a friend, comments on what I'm eating? I'm like, I don't care. They're not putting food into my body. They're not paying my bills. They're not what, you know what I mean? It's just,
Mhm.
I don't have those hangups. But I do realize that for some people, especially women, we tend to be a lot more, just give more deference to other people. And we're social creatures, right? Like, it's perfectly normal, legitimate to want to not stick out, right? Like, I think they call it like tall poppy syndrome, like over in Europe, right? It's like that idea, or even maybe Canada, right? It's like Americans, like, we go, oh, I'm individualistic, but a lot of cultures are not that way. And so for me, it's been interesting because it's one of the things I've had to learn, that, oh, people actually do care about what other people think about what they're doing. Um, so, that being said, I mean, I have gone through so many different iterations of, with friends and family, of how I handle it, right? So at first it would just be like, I would, be at like Thanksgiving dinner and it's like, well, I'm not going to eat that. I don't eat turkey. I don't eat that. So I'd be in the corner with like rolls and mac and cheese when I was like coming back home from college because there was nothing else I could eat and I was still eating cheese and stuff at the time. And so people would just come, oh, well, she's eating. And I remember it's so funny too. My grandmother commented the first time she saw I was like eating the chicken and stuff. She says, you gotta stop eating like that. She's like, you're gonna disappear. She told me I was gonna disappear. Um, but it's my grandmother, and I was like, okay, that's whatever. And I just kind of laughed it off. And so I went away to college and I came back. I remember like that first year I came back for break and I was at her house and she looked at me and she's like, girl, you look good. People will pay money to have a body like yours. And I just laughed. I was like, well, see, I didn't disappear. So, I mean, that's kind of like a little goofy story, but like I share that because I think that a lot of times we think that there's some credence to what our family members are saying, because especially if we grow up with people, those are the people we trust, right? We trust their opinions, we value what they say, what they think. And sometimes they're honestly concerned, right? Because in the media, there's all this stuff about, oh, vegans are deficient in B12 and protein and they don't get this and that. And so they actually are just out of love sometimes just concerned for you because because it's unfamiliar to them. So I think sometimes we have to realize that, there's a knowledge gap there at times and it's not coming from a bad place. And then there's, the people who joke about it. Like I used to have friends I would hang out with, and we'd all go to a restaurant and they go, oh, yeah, meat is murder, but it's tasty, tasty murder, just disgusting, like little snarky comments. And I eventually just stopped hanging out with those people, not because you're vegan, but because they're just not great people, right? And so when you're in a group of people that love and support you, they should accommodate you through whatever transformation you have, right? It's like just like, oh, I'm getting married. And it's like, okay, well, now you got to invite the husband to stuff. Like you can't just like ignore. So I think that we put too much stock in thinking that we're going to be judged and overestimating how much of an impact that will have. So yeah, that's something I work with a lot with coaching my clients on. It's like we just workshop different things. It's like, all right, you're going to a wedding, let's talk about it. What are you going to do? Right? You're going to bring your own food? Are you going to, not eat anything and just have some drinks? Or what, like, let's talk about it. Let's have some intention because you really do have to be intentional. Especially when you're going out into the world, so to speak, because everyone doesn't follow this lifestyle. And even not just being vegan, but just being healthy. Like just trying to eat healthy in America is hard work. So you just have to be intentional about it, especially if you have a goal. So yeah, I coach people through like, what are the options? What are some good options on the menu if you do want to order? How do you handle just being social and not just kind of being a hermit in your house because like you just feel like you have to eat kale and tofu all day? Like that's not necessary either. So there's a balance. There's a balance. And that's definitely something I help coach people through is like, how do you strike that balance in your life? Because everyone's different. Everyone's families are different. They have different personalities, different people they care about, their opinion more or less. And that's all going to influence really their success with making the transition to a new lifestyle. So
Cool. That's great advice. And what are some of your favorite vegan meals? What do you like to eat in a typical week? What are
uh,
favorites?
I love the phrase typical week. I really wish I had one of those or not, because it would probably bore me. Yeah, it's so funny. I do love food, which is not typical of a bodybuilder or athlete. I feel like a lot of athletes are like, I eat a meal plan, I eat what my coach tells me to eat. And that's been one of my challenges, honestly, because I do love food. And so I'm always experimenting and coming up with new things. So I would say right now, well, in general, I tend to eat I would say at minimum, like on the low day for me, it would be 100 grams of protein. That would be I kind of messed up and I didn't get enough protein today. That's a low day for me. Um, but I would say generally I'm more between like 120, 130 grams of protein a day. And that generally consists of things like tofu, not as much soy-based tofu ever since I've tried the Big Mountain fava bean-based tofu. It's made at a company in Canada. And I think it's a woman-owned company too. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love um, that one because it just doesn't have as much fat. Like tofu, people don't realize has it does have protein, but also has quite a bit of fat that goes along with it with the soybeans. So, and I also when I do soybeans, it's only USDA organic, so I'm pretty stickler about that because of the food supply here in the U.S. That's a whole other story. But that fava bean tofu has been my new one of my new staples. Actually, today I just made I make it into like fries. So if I want French fries, instead of having that, I'll slice that up, put some nutritional yeast on it, put it in the air fryer for 15 minutes, and I've got my French fry fix, and I've also got 30 grams of protein. So that's one of the things I'll like do for a snack. But meals, it really varies from week to week. It's summertime now, so I've been doing more like coleslaw. There's Mind Blown is another brand. They have this vegan crab cake, which
Mm.
I've been doing lately. And that again, it's not like a staple. I don't do it all the time, but it's like it's summertime. I live in Maryland. People are eating crabs now, so it's on the mind, and I have an option, so why not? So I've been doing that lately. I do like Updog vegan hot dogs. I think the brand is Upton's. They have a lot of seitan too. So I usually will use seitan and but like I said, it's summertime, so I've been doing the vegan hot dogs, like typical American kind of summertime grill stuff. But yeah, I tend to rely mainly like on that flour-based tofu. Sometimes I'll do tempeh, seitan and all of its different varieties, and then the Beyond products, not the burger, but the Beyond steak and the Beyond burger crumbles, because they're pea protein based and they also are lower in fat than the actual burger, which I think a lot of people don't realize because everyone just knows Beyond Burger, but they have a lot more than burgers. And a lot of those options are a lot healthier than the burger, but like any burger, right? Like why a burger has never been a health food. I don't know why people expect a vegan burger to be a health food and taste good. So, yeah, you have to kind of go with some of their leaner options to get good protein. But those are my staples. And the fastest thing I'll probably do is I'll make a salad. I'll get one of those chopped salads and I'll throw some tempeh on it or some tofu, but I'll chop it up into cubes so it's like croutons. And I'll like season it with like balsamic vinegar, rosemary, whatever I have. Sometimes I'll do avocado and I'll just kind of make like a nice big chopped salad. So that's another staple for something quick when I don't feel like cooking. So,
Sounds
but I
really
love my
good.
air fryer. I swear by it. I put everything in the air fryer. All my protein
Well,
goes in the air fryer. So.
I just took an 8-week class with you on toning my arms and the rest of me too. And I did notice you had a couple of great recipes, suggestions. One was I think a taco bowl, and one was also a coconut curry bowl. So those are,
Yes.
great options too. So yeah, and I've always been devoted to fitness, not to the level of what you have created in your life, but to maintain some health and some muscle strength as I get older, especially. And so that really just got me back on track and motivated. So, and just your tips for how to keep moving forward and not get stagnant were so
Yes.
helpful. I wonder as we wrap up, can you share a little bit of, one, how can people find you? And two, what are you offering these days in terms of your programs?
Sure. So I am on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Tamara Marie MD. So Tamara Marie MD. And I also have an Instagram for Plant Empowered Fitness, but you can go directly to my website as well, plantempoweredfitness.com. It's where, like, if you want to learn more about coaching or nutrition, or the question I always get asked, it's like, well, where do you get your protein and how much protein do you need? I actually have a protein calculator on my website so that you can determine, because I think that in the vegan community, there's so much obsession with, protein, whether you shouldn't have it or you should have it, or what's too much, what's too little. And I think that most people don't realize the answer is it has to do with what your goals are and, who you are, where you're starting from, and what are your goals. And a lot of the generic fitness information doesn't take any of that into account. So I made this calculator to kind of help guide people for not a hard, fast number. It's like a range, right? It's like your optimal protein range. It's not about high protein, low protein, no oil. It's about what's optimal for you. So I have that calculator on my website, plantpowerfitness.com. So if you're wondering, like, how much protein do I need and then how do I get it? That's a good place to start. And yeah, in terms of programs, I do one-on-one coaching all year round. I tend to have spots open each month. It just really kind of depends on, how many slots I have available, but I do always take applications for coaching year round as well. So if you're thinking like, oh, I just don't know what to do next, or I want to get, stronger, or I just want to get something different, because I think a lot of times we get in a rut with fitness and we're just doing the same thing. And usually what will get us results is the thing we haven't done yet and the thing we haven't tried. So yeah, I definitely, do group programs as well sometimes, but yeah, just plantpowerfitness.com. I usually keep that pretty up to date. And if you join my email list, then I'll, contact you directly so you'll know about any programs that I have coming up.
Yes, and also you've started to create some new products too, some fitness
Yes.
gummies. If you want to say a little bit about that real quick too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I've noticed that people are a little bit obsessed with supplements in the fitness space. I definitely have fallen into that myself, and I've spent years and years kind of trying to optimize like the perfect supplement stack and like what do I need and all this kind of stuff. And the first thing I always tell people is number one, like don't just take a supplement because everyone said on the internet that you need to take it. Oh, all vegans should take this. Well, how do you know if you need to take it unless you've gone to the doctor and you know what if you have a vitamin deficiency? Because if you don't have one, you don't need to waste money on it, right? But there are certain supplements, especially for women who are in the 40 and over crew, like when your hormones start to kind of go a little bit haywire, things start changing. That, sometimes just the things that we used to be able to do are a little bit harder for us. And so I think supplements become more necessary when you have a fitness goal, particular, when you just have a health goal or body composition goal, like having that energy and vitality and to be able to maintain it and then to be able to recover from your workouts is so, so important. And so I developed a supplement because I hate taking pills. And so I said, there's got to be a better way. I was taking so many supplements, had like little supplement tray, how you have when it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the ones they give the seniors. And it's like, oh, I'll put all your pills in each thing. I had that with supplements. This is like so many supplements. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I spent some time on getting it formulated and getting it made into a gummy, a sugar-free gummy. So it's doesn't mess up your teeth and it's got, it's sweetened with monk fruit, so it's a natural sweetener with no calories. But so I was like, I got to make this something that I can take every day. Because a lot of times with supplements, it's like if you don't want to swallow the pill or you forget to mix the powder, then then you haven't taken it for a week and now it's like it's not going to work, right? So the supplement that I developed, it actually has a mix of adaptogens, vitamins, and minerals that are really good for women over 40, vegans in particular as well. But it just helps with recovery and also helps with muscle toning. So it has creatine, which is something I think a lot of bodybuilders are familiar with, but a lot of women don't necessarily take, especially not in the vegan community. And it can really benefit us because most, omnivores will get creatine through their diet because it comes in animal products. In vegans, we don't get creatine in our diet. So there's a synthetic form of creatine that's been tested, I mean, for years and years, very, very safe supplement. And so the foundation of it is creatine, but also has magnesium, rhodiola rosea, which is an adaptogen. It helps you manage stress. It has sea moss. That's just one that has a lot of minerals that you need. And so if you have issues with thyroid or, there's minerals that you're not getting in your diet, sea moss really kind of covers all of those bases. And also omega-3s in the form of algae oil. So a lot of people think they need to take, fish oil every day. And I go, well, you don't need to take fish oil. Where do the fish get the omegas from? They're eating the algae. So let's cut out the middle fish, and just have the algae. So that's what's in the supplement. And I just wanted to make it easy to take. I wanted to get rid of the barriers to taking it and also much more cost efficient because they're all in one supplement instead of having to buy magnesium and then buy the omega-3. Just so many things. So my goal was to simplify to make it easier for people and really for myself because I take it every day. So yeah, it's a Fit 40 formula is the brand and it's the Sculpt and Tone Gummies is the first product. And that is like more of like a post-workout supplement to help with recovery and energy and muscle toning. So
it's wonderful. Well, as we wrap up, any final words to encourage women, especially women as we get into 40s and beyond, on their fitness journey? A final word before we go.
yeah, I think for me, it's just don't give up on yourself, right? Don't give up on the idea that, oh, well, I'm old now. And so now it's like, I'm just going to have to accept that I'm going to be more tired and my hormones are going to be crazy and I'm going to get bigger. I can't be as lean. And I'm just like all these things that we have in our mind about aging. And even just about being vegan, this idea of like, well, I'm vegan, so, I can go to yoga, but I don't want to do anything too, risque or whatever, because I don't want to be around all those meatheads in the gym or whatever it is. I mean, you'll be surprised about how many people are starting to embrace more plant-based diet and lifestyle. I mentioned I went to the Arnold Expo. Arnold Schwarzenegger was giving a little mini lecture in the hallway to people about how he doesn't eat that much meat anymore because he had heart surgery several times. And there were companies giving away plant-based protein, and those were the first to go. The whey protein was still sitting there. So don't assume that just because you're not around all vegans that people are, it's like hostile territory, right? You'd be surprised about the people you'll meet and that you'll find in all walks of life. And just don't accept this idea that your gender or your age or your background or your lifestyle limits you in any way. If you see something and that's what you want to be, and that's the transformation you want, go for it and get the help and support you need to get there. Because I guarantee you, someone has done it before and has walked that path. You just need to find the guide to get you to where you want to be. But just don't give up on it because it's never too late. As long as you're still breathing, you've got time for transformation.
That's awesome. Very inspiring. Well, I thank you for coming on, Tamara. It's just been great to talk and hear your story. So thank you again so much. And I just want to
Thanks.
thank you all for listening to the Vegan Transformation. If you found this interview helpful or inspiring, I hope you'll subscribe and also share this with others that you think might benefit. Thanks again, and we'll
Thanks
talk
for
to you
having me.
soon. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.